Welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report, the only show that provides you with the best insight and information to everything Franklin County sports. And now here's your host, Bobby C.
Hello and welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. I'm Bobby C. I want to welcome you here today. Want to say a big thank you to our production crew here today, John Meisner, Philippe Simone, and Allie Murphy. Also, we want you to know that we are here at GCTV, also online at gctv.org. We're also on the FCAT at fcat.tv, and we're also on Montague Community Television as well. It's always nice to be able to share the great sports of all the local schools right here in our area each and every week. Want to say a big thank you to our underwriters here today. A big thank you to the Four Leaf Clover Restaurant, Denny's Pantry, Berniston Road in Greenfield, Hubie's Tavern and Restaurant, Avenue Way in Turners Falls, and by Lisa Alber of Alber Hearing Services, 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield. Well, welcome to another week of the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. Why don't we get things started on what happened a week ago Wednesday? Well, let's go back to Monday. How's that? Well, on Monday, turned out to be a pretty fun one over there at Nichols Gymnasium in a volleyball match between the good old Pioneer and Greenfield. A couple of teams that are struggling this season, but turned out to be a pretty fun one. And the score sort of reflected that, where Pioneer ended up winning game one, 22-25, and then they got beat game two to Greenfield, 25-16. Greenfield won game three, 25-17, and then Greenfield won the fourth game, 29-27. So it was a nice win for the Green Wave over Pioneer. I will say that Pioneer has improved definitely from the beginning of the season. Two aces by Coran Callahan ended the Northern League match for the Wave as they picked up that victory. It was a big win for them, a win that they really needed. Callahan said in the final set that it was very exciting. There was a lot going on, especially back and forth, and to be able to pull off that win 29-27 was pretty special for them. The Green Wave is now 5-8 overall. They're 4-5 in the Northern Division. They do have 4 matches left, and they really need to win 3 of the 4 if they want to go to postseason play. Now, the Panthers, on the other hand, are 1-11 and 1-7 in league play, but they have definitely improved, and I have seen that since we started this show earlier in September. Well, it turned out to be a big win for Frontier. You know, the Frontier girls this year, they have a lot of new players, and they have a lot of inexperienced players that are learning as the season has gone on. And right now it's paying dividends because they took on a very good Longmeadow team at Longmeadow. It was a special Spike It for Life day. And what they mean by Spike It for Life is that, as you know, the month of October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Well, they ended up doing the Spike It for Life, and it ended up being the big game between Frontier and Longmeadow. Frontier picks up the victory. Olivia Dean and Jalen Sullivan, well, they ended up combining for 23 kills. Frontier ended up playing big. They end up winning 25-21 in game one. They win 25-23 in game two, and they win game three, 25-17. Really was a big win for them, something that they really needed. Matter of fact, if you talk to Coach McDonald, he'll tell you that this was a very important win for their program because as they start getting ready for postseason play, these are the type of teams that they're going to have to play against. And a team like Longmeadow that they're going to be able to get far in postseason play, they're going to have to beat teams like this, and that's exactly what they did on the road last Monday. Turners Falls continues their winning ways in volleyball. They are 10-0 in league play this season. You know, for a team that was looking for players at the beginning of the year, they are on fire. The Thunder is now 11-4 overall. They end up winning set number 1 in their win against Athol, 25-11. Game 2 was 25-9, and Game 3 was 25-17. Now, their head coach, Kelly Lamatanian, says that it's a great thing for a young team to be able to start off the season at 10-0 in league play. Dabney Rollins ends up with 6 kills and 5 aces for the Thunder. Haley Bogus ends up with 5 aces, 7 assists, and a kill. Also, Isabel Farrick ends up with 6 kills and an ace. Taylor Green gets 8 aces, 2 kills, and 2 aces for the Thunder. Well, in boys soccer, it turned out to be a big win for the Franklin County Tech a week ago Monday as they end up knocking off Duggan Academy. Final score was 7-2. And the Franklin County Tech freshman who has been hot this year is Sam Lashtour. And I will tell you that he had 3 goals and 2 assists for the Tech school. He was on fire. Also, Tony Barralone, well, he ended up having a good game as well. Between those 2 guys, they were able to get it done. But here's something cool. A guy by the name of Jaden Hamlet and also a gentleman by the name of Alex Siniger. They are 2 freshmen. They got their first points of the year for the Tech school. So congratulations, gentlemen, on being able to get in the scoring department. Nice feeling in the Tech Rolls in their win over Duggan Academy, 7-2. In golf, it was the Green Wave with a win over St. Mary's. Final score was 18-6 last Monday. I will say that Dylan Archer shot a 49 from the number 2 spot. Jake Cody had a low score for the Green Wave, shooting a 48 to win the number 3 spot. Danny Provost ends up with a 55 at number 4. Jacob Frank's 55 was good enough to win the number 5 spot. And Chris Bostrom ends up with a 60, and he wins his match as well. Gabe LaRoche shot a 50 on the par 35 course at the number 1 spot. He did struggle in this one for the Wave, but the Wave picks up the victory over St. Mary's. So there you have it, a small little feature of teams that ended up playing last Monday. Want to welcome you to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. I'm Bobby C. We get together each and every week right here for you on GCTV, the FCAT, also MCTV. And yes, we post it on Facebook for you too. All you got to do is look under Bobby C. Campbell on Facebook and you will get the show each and every week. And what better than to be able to have a great technical crew that gets it done for us each and every week with John Meisner, Philippe Simone, and Allie Murphy. Well, on Tuesday, you got to say that it was a big game for Katie Hazelton. And Greenfield ends up with a big win over Turners Falls. Final score was 6-1. You know, it was a really tough one for Turners Falls in that first half of that game a week ago Tuesday when they were down 5-0. You know, they really just didn't get things together early in that one, but it turned out to be a better second half for the Thunder as they ended up scoring even with the Wave. And really, I honestly can tell you that they really outplayed the Wave in the second half, but that first half was definitely all Greenfield. And Greenfield is 6-4-1, and they have had a pretty tough schedule this year. But what about the Thunder? You know, they've played pretty well too, and they're hanging in there. They need a couple of wins so that they can qualify for postseason play. Katie Hazelton, well, she did well. She ends up with 3 goals. Also, Raquel Provost ends up with a goal. Lily Kackelmeyer with a goal. And I'll tell you, another girl who's been able to do really well for them is Kayla Eggsware, and Eggsware ends up with a goal as well. Provost, Hazelton, Taylor, which that's Amber Taylor, and Lily Kackelmeyer all end up with assists in this one. By the way, I got to tell you, I've been very impressed with Lindsay Davenport, too. She's doing okay over there for the Turners Falls team. You know, the one thing I like about this Thunder team, though, is they do have talent. Sometimes you just got to rally together and put that team together and get them to start playing as a group. You know, this is what we have to do. We have to get these kids to start working together. As we know, Greenfield was struggling earlier this year with their communication and they were having problems. They have started to work that out a little bit more and they're starting to win. That's what the key is. It's about working together. Well, I can say that the Greenfield High School, you know, I look at this as a pretty cool thing here. Greenfield High School girls soccer. You know, we talked about this team and the struggles that they had. When I first started this show 3.5 years ago, they didn't even win a game. They were lucky if they could even score 2 or 3 goals for the season. And right now, they are sitting in a very special place. That's right, on Tuesday, they ended up qualifying for postseason play with a 2-1 win over Smith Academy. You know, it's the second consecutive year that they've been able to make postseason play. Like I said, it was a 15-year drought before that for this girls' team. The Green Wave 8-2 as of last Tuesday. Ended up being down in this one 1-0, but they came back and scored a couple of goals to pick up the win. Nice job by Eva Pruitt-Dahl. She ended up finding the net. And also, Victoria Marin ended up getting a goal as well. Nice win for them. Congratulations to the Wave. And Dina Hamaki ends up with 11 saves for the Wave in the win. Pioneer picked up an 8-0 win over Mohawk. That was an easy win for them and a win that was definitely needed by this Pioneer girls team. You know, with just 11 players on the game roster, 3 Warriors ended up getting injured in this game, and unfortunately they had to call the game at the 60th minute with the 8-0 lead for Pioneer. Just been a very unfortunate season for that team. Steph Scoble, Annie Browning, also, looks like Azzy Sisajanin ends up with a goal, as well as Sarah Johnson. They picked up goals for the Panthers. A nice win for them, easily over Mohawk, 8-0. Definitely these ladies up on the trail are definitely undermanned right now with not enough players. Smith Vocational ends up knocking off the Tech School. Another tough one for the Tech as they get beat 6-0. I will say that Emily Merritt had 10 saves, but those 10 saves weren't enough, unfortunately, because they couldn't get the offense going, and the Tech School loses yet another game in girls soccer. Well, it looks like Ware knocked off Frontier. Final score was 4-2. Sad thing is that Frontier was up in this one 2-0, and then Ware gets 4 unanswered goals to pick up the victory. Well, in boys soccer, it was Felix Pruitt-Dahl who ended up scoring in the 20th minute, and guess what? A nice win as Pioneer ends up winning. They beat Smith Academy 1-0 last Tuesday. Liam Curtis picked up an assist, and Ryan Potter ended up with 7 saves in the net for the Panthers. Mahar picks up an easy win over Greenfield. Final score was 5-0. Alex Carballo ends up with 6 saves in the net for the Green Wave. Well, ended up being a nice win for Pioneer and their field hockey team as they beat Palmer last Tuesday. Final score was 6-0. Jenny Fuller ends up with a couple of goals for the Panthers. Also, Kelsey Sargent ends up getting a tally as well. And Pioneer opens up and wins big. Nice job by them. Also, Caitlin Trudeau, Fuller, Walker, Cassidy DeGeorge, Riley Thayer all picked up assists in the win as they pick up a 6-0 victory over Palmer. Well, last Tuesday, Athol ends up beating the Franklin County Tech. It was a tough one in field hockey for the ladies over there in Turner's Falls. It was a tough loss, but I will say that Kylie Bolano ends up with 4 saves in the net for the Tech School. In golf last week, and on Tuesday, it was medalist honors for Ben Thompson. He ended up shooting a 46 to lead Mohawk over Central. Final score in this one was 22.5 to 1.5. So a nice easy win for them. Sam Thompson ends up with 4 points for the Warriors. He had a 65. Gage Patnode with a 63. Also Douglas Wilcox and Austin Parker also did well, and they pick up an easy win. Frontier with an easy win over Hopkins in golf as they continue their great play this year, and they win 20-4. Gunnar Moore ends up with a 38. He is your medalist over at Cherry Hill in Amherst, as that's where Frontier plays their home matches. Alex Kaczynski ends up with 4 points. He had a 44. Gabe Kaczynski with a 49. Also, they had Marcus Larson, and he ended up doing okay as well. They picked up a big win. Frontier, nice job over Hopkins. Well, the Franklin County Tech School, their golf team continues undefeated, and they beat McCann Tech, a close one though. Final score was 13-11. Alex Ulda ends up with a 43. He ends up doing well and picks up 4 points for his team. Also, Mike McGoldrick earned 3.5 points at the number 1 spot with a 45. Jacob Shaw ended up in the number 5 spot. He had a 48, and they pick up the victory. Well, Ware took it to Greenfield. Final score was 20.5 to 3.5 in golf last week. Jake Cody and Dylan Archer they both had the 49s for the day, but it wasn't enough, unfortunately for them, and they ended up getting beat 20.5 to 3.5. Munson picks up an easy win over Turner's Falls, 19-5. I can tell you that Brian Poirier had a 44. He was the low of the day for the Thunder. He ended up with 3.5 points out of the 4 that he could get. Also, Aiden Bailey picked up a 51, and Joey Mosca had a 46 for the Thunder. Well, in girls cross country, it was another dominant meet in the tri-meet for Mohawk Trail. They end up winning against the Senators of Mahar, 15-50. They also beat Greenfield and McCann Tech, too. You know, I got to say one thing, that this Mohawk team has had very good success. And, you know, when you talk to Coach Joe Chadwick, he'll tell you that their top 3 have been getting it done all season long. Erica Lumen, nice job done by her. Also, Savannah Simmons did well, and Sierra Upton, Caitlin Upton. Also, you can't forget about those other girls that have been able to do well, including Poplawski, too. They have had a very successful year this year. Greenfield had the next 3 finishers in there with Eva Heath. She came in at 8th place. Also, it was a tough day, though, for Candace Liu. She ended up in the 10th spot, which is not normal for her. And Joanna Gould ends up with the 9th spot with a time of 23 minutes and 32 seconds. On the boys' side in cross country on Tuesday, it was Dennis Simmons who ends up blazing for the Mohawk Trail team, and they end up winning the Warriors. But the thing is that he did well, but Greenfield overall walked away with the win. Final, though, was really close, and it was 21-37. But also, Green Wave ended up doing well because they got that victory that was well needed for them. Alex Terrell, he ended up doing well. It got 2nd place behind Simmons with a time of 18 minutes and 24 seconds. Teammate Andy Bostrom ended up 3rd place, 18 minutes and 29 seconds. Eric Badillo ended up 5th place with a time of 18 minutes and 45 seconds. So a nice job right there by the Green Wave with a win over Mohawk. But Dennis Simmons ended up with a time of 17 minutes and 28 seconds to take 1st place for the Warriors. Well, it ended up being what they call a nail biter, and the nails ended up literally getting down there as 2 teams that are 2 really good programs in boys soccer battled it out. Final score, though, was 0-0 between Frontier and Pope Francis. 2 teams that are going to be going to postseason play. Matter of fact, Pope Francis is 8-2-2, and they ended up being a team that, I got to be honest with you, I thought that they probably would have won this game against Frontier. But when you talk to Coach Horton, he'll tell you that he was very pleased with the way his team played and that they fought hard. Unfortunately, it ended up as a 0-0 tie. Want to welcome you to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. I'm Bobby C. We get together with you each and every week. We run down the scores. We let you know what's happening with all of our local athletes here at the 6 Franklin County schools. There's a lot of different sports that happen here in the fall, our busiest season, and we need to get to Wednesday. But before we do, want to say a big thank you to our underwriters here today, the 4 Leaf Clover Restaurant in Berniston, Denny's Pantry, Berniston Road in Greenfield, Lisa Alber of Alber Hearing Services, 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield, and by Sean Hubert and the staff over at Hubie's, the Tavern and Restaurant on Avenue A in Turner's Falls. Well, we're up to Wednesday. Frontier Regional, their big star, Brett Robinson, hey, he ended up racing past the competition. He took 1st place with a time of 19 minutes and 48 seconds, and they end up winning against Smith Vocational as well as Pioneer and East Hampton. That's right, they walked away with a big win, and a nice job by Robinson as well. He had a stellar day for his team. Matter of fact, 9 of the Red Hawks placed in the top 10 to cruise with an easy victory for them. Want to tell you, though, there's a kid up there at Pioneer. He has been placing 1st or 2nd all year long. for that Pioneer team, and that is Noah DeRuiter. And Noah ends up with a second-place finish. He has had a solid year for that Pioneer team. He's definitely looking at all Western Mass honors. And Brett Robinson and his team, boy, they've been able to get it done. Looks like Jack Carey ended up being in third place. Also, Oliver Brown was fourth. Aiden Gray was fifth. Alex Carey was in there at number 6. Patrick Boyden at 7. Maxfield Rubin and Danny Fellows, as well as Kai Sharp, well, they wrap up the top 10. 9 of the top 10 finishers, all from Frontier. Well, on the girls' side, Frontier dominated the action, taking a 15-50 win over Pioneer. Smith Vocational, they also picked up the win there, 21-40. And Pioneer ended up losing to both East Hampton and Smith Vocational, 15-50. Leah Gump ended up being fourth for Frontier. Sasha Malo ends up with a 5th-place finish, as 4 of the top 5 finishers were from Frontier. Samantha Baldwin was the lone Panther runner that made it in the top 10. She placed at number 8, while Red Hawk runners Sadie Ross, Leah Vici, and also Adrian Josephs, they round out the top 10. Well, in field hockey, Greenfield, after picking up that victory against Turner's Falls earlier in the week, well, they picked up a 3-1 victory over South Hadley. Turned out to be a big one, and I'll tell you, it was 3 ladies who were able to find the net. That was Eggsworth, as well as Katie Hazelton and Raquel Provost. They have been dominant on this team, and right now, as of last Wednesday, the Wave 7-4-1, 4-1 in league play. Well, in volleyball, it was the Thunder, and the Thunder ended up going up, and they lost their first game of the season. That's right, they ended up getting beat. They lost to Lee, and the final score was 3-1. Of course, if you talk to Coach Kelly Lavatanian, she'll tell you that they are a quality team. You know, they're one of the best teams in Western Massachusetts, Lee is, and they were definitely solid last year as well. Lee took control and ended up winning this one. But Coach said, you know, we're 11-5. Things are going well for us. We just got to get back on track and get ready for our next game. And that's where they're hoping to be able to get themselves all ready for postseason play, as they will be taking on East Hampton. Putnam picked up a win over Mahar Regional. Tech School remains unbeaten in golf with a nice win, 20-4 last Wednesday over there at Thomas Memorial Country Club, where Alex Sulda ended up with 4 points with a 45. Also, Anthony Zager got 3 points in the number 3 spot with a 50. Nate Scandra had a 48 at the number 5 spot. Matt Marhefka ended up with a 56 at the number 6 spot. He picked up 3.5 points for his team. Frontier continues their winning ways. They knocked off Mahar 19-5. I'm telling you, a couple of the top area golfers got to go at it. Mikey Kordoff ended up out-dueling a kid by the name of Tucker Nintu. And I will tell you that Nintu is considered one of the top golfers in the area. And yes, Mikey Kordoff got the best of him. He ended up out-dueling him 37-40. Also, Brian Bauman ends up picking 4 points up for his team with a 46. Kevin Bauman picked up 3 points with a 55. And I can tell you that Frontier is definitely rolling along this golf season. Westfield Tech picks up an easy win over Mohawk 19-5. Ben Thompson continues his great play for the Warriors. He ends up with a 49 and earns 3 points at the number 1 spot. But it wasn't enough. And you know what really comes down to it is that you can have 1 or 2 really good golfers, but when you have a team like Frontier who has 5 or 6, it makes it a little tough to be able to beat teams like that. And Frontier is definitely on a roll where the Warriors have just been struggling. Phineas Tupman ends up snagging a point at the number 2 spot with a 59. Well, in volleyball, it was a nice win for Athol, as Athol ended up beating the Franklin County Tech. Final score was 3-1. Set scores were this: it was 26-24 Athol in Game 1. Game 2, 25-22. Then they lost Game 3 to the Tech School, 15-25. And then it was 25-21 in Game 4. Red Raiders, well, they're sitting at 5-8 on the season. I will say that the Tech Eagles are the same way. They're at 5-8 too, and they ended up taking it on the chin in this one. I will say, though, that they've had a very good run. Lillian Poirier ends up with 7 digs. Mackenzie Martell ends up with 5 digs to help the Eagles. Emily Ryan had a couple of blocks and 3 kills for the Tech School as well. And yes, Maggie Carlton ends up with 6 kills. And there you have it. A tough one for the Tech School. Frontier getting closer and closer to postseason play as of last Wednesday, as Frontier is looking to hopefully get a Western Mass championship, but they had an easy one. They knocked off Mohawk. Final score was 3-1, and they improved to 8-2 on the year. Well, according to their coach, they could have played a little better in this one. And as far as she's concerned, it was a very impressive win for them in the fact that they just continue to win week after week. This Frontier team is very well coached, very well disciplined, and always seems to get to postseason play and always seems to compete. It always seems to be lately Frontier and Greenfield. What will it be this year? We hopefully will be finding out very soon. One thing I can tell you is Mohawk will not be in postseason play. They are now 4-7-2 on the season. All right. As we roll through the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report, we want to let you know that it was one of those type of weeks where there has been probably 2 games in the week, where some weeks we've been able to get 3 games for some of these teams. Well, Thursday seemed like a pretty light sports day as well, and it was. But I will say that the Tech girls soccer team, guess what? They won. All right. Those ladies looking for another win, and they got one. As Jocelyn Crowning Shield, her and Riley Eris ended up scoring, and the girls team from the Tech School, they win 3-2 over Mohawk. So congratulations goes out to them on a nice win, a win that they definitely needed. In volleyball, looks like Frontier got a little payback to Amherst. After Amherst beat them earlier this year, they got them in South Deerfield 3-1 last Thursday. Redhawks ended up losing earlier in the year, but that didn't matter on good old Pack the House night. That's right, they ran the Pack the House night, and it was a packed house over there at Goodnoe Gymnasium where they ended up picking up the victory. Matter of fact, one of our guys here, John Meisner, I'm surprised that he wasn't at that special matchup for a little volleyball action over there in Frontier, because I know that he is getting a little bit of extra experience on some of these games. That would have been a fun one to be at. Pack the House night down in South Deerfield. Well, Jalen Sullivan, Olivia Dean, well, they definitely led the attack. 16 kills, 21 kills for Olivia Dean. Also setter Olivia Rosewarm with 22 assists. Also 8 digs for Frontier. Sydney Scanlon ends up with 12 assists. They pick up the victory. Well, comeback came a little short in field hockey for the Franklin County Tech girls. They got beat 4-3 to Amherst. Kylie Boleno ends up with 7 saves. Logan Addison ended up netting a hat trick for the Eagles. Nice job, Logan, as she picked up 3 big points. Mohawk Trail, well, they ended up taking on Mahar in a game that they had over there at the complex in Orange. It was a 0-0 tie in field hockey. Their keeper over at Mohawk, Maddie Coral, ends up with 4 saves, so Goral ends up with a pretty light day in the net. Once again, it was a 0-0 tie. In boys soccer, it was Garrett Cole connecting with a guy who has really been a big part of this Tech team. He's only a freshman and his name is Sam Lashtour. And I will say that he ended up scoring a couple of times in the first half, and him and Garrett ended up doing well. And look at this team. They end up picking up a win, a very needed win, as they are trying to fight for their postseason hopes as well. Greenfield picks up a win in boys soccer over Cy Tech 3-2 as the Green Wave took the lead 4 minutes into the game as Caleb Duncan ended up with a nice goal. Teddy Pop ended up scoring twice for Greenfield. Crescens ends up with the assist. Alex Carbano ends up with 5 saves for the Wave. And yes, he didn't let up a goal before coming out in the second half. So they picked up the win 3-2. Pioneer, they end up losing a tough one to Granby. Final score was 1-0. Ryan Potter ends up with 5 saves for Pioneer in the loss. Well, as of last Thursday, that team from the Tech School in golf, they win again. They won their 14th straight, and they win 24-0 over Sabas. I got to tell you, Mikey McGoldrick had himself a great one, 39 points. A score of 39 is what he ended up having to pick up 4 points at the #1 spot. Alex Sulda with a 41, Jacob Shaw with a 46, Ryan Artis with a 46, Nate Sciandra with a 45. They all picked up wins for the Eagles. They are now 14-0 on the year. Northampton knocked off Mohawk 19-5. Ben Thompson and Sam Thompson, well, they were your leaders for Mohawk. Ben ended up losing at the #1 spot, but he did pick up 1 point for his team. East Hampton knocked off Turner's Falls 22-2 in golf last week. Joey Mosca had a 46. He had the best round for the Thunder in the loss. Aiden Bailey ended up with a 48, the next best round for Turner's. Greenfield gets beat by Munson, one of the best teams around, 23.5 to 0.5. The Green Wave ran into a very tough Mustang team, and they get beat over at the Quaibog Country Club out there in Munson, where Gabe LaRoche had the best card of the day for the Wave with a 50. And also Jay Cody had a 52 in the #2 spot. Want to welcome you to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. I'm Bobby C. Rolling right along through our show here this week. You know, we've been trying to see if we could get a couple of interviews in here with some of these coaches, but you know what? They have been so busy with practices and with the times that they have to get these games in that it's been a little bit of a confliction for us. I haven't been able to sort of snag the coaches I've been looking for. You know, there's a lot of hot teams that are around here right now. You know, you talk about Coach Joe Chadwick up there at Mohawk with his teams. You talk about the girls' field hockey team that you have over at Frontier. You could also add Greenfield in there as well. You got a couple of undefeated golf teams with Frontier and the Franklin County Tech. You also could talk about some of these other programs like Tina Rydell, who's got a great thing going on over there at Greenfield High School with their girls soccer program. So there is a lot of hope. And of course, don't ever count out the Red Hawks volleyball team. No matter what, they make noise during tourney time. Well, we're up to Friday as we cruise through the week here. And dare we say that Frontier ended up going to the air. That's right. They went to the air. And it ended up being a big help for them as they picked up a win, 14-8 over Greenfield last Friday night. You know, there was a lot of talk in this one about a call that could have gone Greenfield's way, and it didn't, where they were able to punch out a ball that they felt was a fumble and was picked up and ran back into the end zone, but they said that that was not the case, and it really could have tied this game up, and it could have been a totally different one over there in front of a packed house at Greenfield High School. But the bottom line is that Frontier picked up the win, 14-8. These teams have played very well against each other over the past 3 seasons. One thing that we can say is that the talent that is on this Frontier team is really good. They have good players that are able to get it done. Greenfield, though, I will tell you, what helped them against Frontier with the line, and as a big guy myself, I can say this and do it with very big sincerity, that when you have a guy on the other side of you that's about the same size, as long as you can keep your feet moving, it's called belly rubbing time. You belly rub. So what happened was in that game, you had a lot of big boys with Nick Lyons. You had, Colby Avery. You also had Big Samaski over there on the Frontier side. Well, those guys are big boys. So when they were able to move their feet, they just were doing a lot of belly rubbing in this one. And as you saw, the score was only 14-8. Frontier picks up the win. Well, the Mohawk Turners co-op team, they came up just short against Palmer. Final score, so sad. They got beat by 2 in this one in a game that they really had an opportunity to win. And it didn't work out for them as they ended up picking up the loss. Final score was 14-12. It was a tough one for them in a game that they really could have used. Now, all of a sudden, after they started off their season 3-0, they are now 3-2 with their loss to Palmer and their loss on Booster Day over in Turners when they ended up having that game over there when they got beat by McCann Tech. Well, the Franklin County Tech School picked up a big win that they needed against Athol. They win big in this one. Final score was 28-0. Now, the Tech School is sitting at 2-1 in league play in the Inter-County League North, and that's a very important record for them because they want to be able to try to do what they can to qualify for the playoffs. Even if they don't, though, they're hoping for at least an opportunity to be able to pick up maybe a home game or 2 in November, which you want to try to have a decent record so you can have an opportunity for a couple of home games. It turned out to be a big day, though, for Ian McClure. He ended up running for a game-high 156 yards for the Tech, had a couple of touchdowns, too. By the way, Bailey Young, he also was able to do something very nice on the year. He topped 1,000 yards already. He had 109 yards on the ground and a touchdown of his own for the Tech School. The Tech ended up with 292 rushing yards. And check this out, 374 yards of total offense. They dominated against Athol. Well, you look at how things are going for that girls team, that good old soccer program over at Greenfield. Guess what? They won again, and it was because of a couple of tallies from one of their better players in Emma Savoy. She ended up scoring 2 of their 3 goals. They pick up the 3-1 victory over Pope Francis. So as of Friday, the Green Wave, 8-0 in league play, 9-2 overall. Wow, they are really on fire. And Caitlin Lavoine, well, she ended up picking up an opportunity at getting herself a goal as well. When you talk to Coach Tina Riddell, she'll tell you that she's very proud of the way her team is playing. She said that the nice thing is that we are really working hard as a team right now. Very proud of the way our defense played, especially in the second half. And Dina Samaki, she has really done well for her, and she's very pleased with the way that she's been in the net this season. She knocked away 6 shots in the win. East Hampton ends up beating Frontier. Final score was 1-0 in girls soccer back on Friday. Also in boys soccer, Pioneer and Mohawk ended up at a 1-1 tie. Jacob Quinn put the Panthers ahead in the 28th minute with a pass from Noah Keith, and that ended up giving them the 1 goal they needed. And then Keenan Ramirez ended up with an unassisted goal from Mohawk to tie the game, and that is where it ended. Frontier picked up a win, and with that win on Friday, they qualified for postseason play. They beat Westfield 2-0. Looks like Lilla Roach ended up breaking the scoreless tie with 3 minutes and 40 seconds remaining in regulation. And then they ended up getting another quick one to end it, and they pick up the win. Coach Missy Marhar says that one of her team goals was to qualify for the Western Mass Tournament. She says she's very proud of the girls to be able to pick up the win today. And yes, they are going to postseason play. Well, the Greenfield Green Wave, they picked up another win as well in field hockey. They beat East Long Meadow. Final score was 3-0 on Friday. And that was a big win for them. Tell you right now, Frontier and Greenfield, they are going to postseason play. And right now, Greenfield is really starting to play a lot better. You know, like the coach said earlier in the year, things weren't going well. They weren't communicating. Looks like the communication seems to be getting better over there in Greenfield. Belchertown picked up an easy win over Pioneer. Final score in field hockey was 4-1. Jenny Fuller recorded the lone score with an assist from Sydney Unitas, and they end up getting beat, and that was at home in Northfield. Volleyball on Friday, it was the Franklin County Tech with a win over SciTech 3-2. Turned out to be a pretty good one. Renee Reed ended up filling the stat sheet with 4 digs, 4 kills, and 14 assists, as well as 2 blocks and an ace for the Tech school. Kelly Trudeau also played well in this one, as well as Maddie Churchill, and they pick up the victory 3-2 over SciTech. Southwick with an easy win over Mohawk. Final score was 3-0. Octava Crawford ends up with 5 kills and an assist and a pair of digs, but Southwick came away with the easy win. Also, McCann Tech ends up easily winning in a golf match against Mohawk. Final score was 23-1. Sam Thompson earned the lone point for Mohawk. He did that out of the number 3 position. Ben Thompson registered the low score for the Warriors with a 50. And there's just a little other small thing that we have here on our show, and that is on Saturday. They ended up having their Booster Day week over there at Pioneer. And I can tell you that Pioneer Valley Regional, their volleyball team, ended up losing to Taconic. Final score was 3-0. They lost Game 1, 25-16. Game 2, 25-7. Game 3, 25-10. Abby Briggs ends up with 2 aces and a kill. Emily Tibbetts ends up with 3 aces and a dig. And there you have it. Pioneer ends up losing in this one. Also, we want you to know that there was a girls' soccer game that was played on Saturday where the Pioneer girls picked up a win 3-0 as Azzy Sesajanin ends up scoring twice in the first half, and a definite nice win for them. Matter of fact, Coach Nikki Pullen said that this was the best performance of her team this season. Paige Loftman ends up scoring as well in the 49th minute. And there you have it. That is it. That's how things roll around here, man. We are done for another week. It's amazing on how they go from 3 games a week for a lot of these teams to down to 1 or 2 games in a week. Seemed like a light menu this past week in sports. Hopefully we'll have a lot bigger coming up for you next week. But before I wrap up, I wanted to bring up a little note here for you. I want to let you know that I want to give a little shout out, a very special shout out to finding out that our local youngsters, called the Bulldogs, they're a bunch of young kids. Well, they just found out that their juniors team has made the playoffs. And we are doing everything we can so that we can be able to provide that game for you here on Greenfield Community Television. It's a game that will be played down at Amherst Regional High School. And it also is a game where these kids will be fighting for a championship opportunity. They're going to end up having their first playoff game, and if they win that, they'll have a chance to go into the championships. But I will say that these kids have worked very hard this season, and they will have that opportunity. We're going to do everything we can. By the way, that game will be on Sunday, October 27th. So we're hoping to be able to have that game to be able to give you an opportunity to view it here on GC TV. Well, for John Meisner, Allie Murphy, Philippe Simone, I'm Bobby C. Don't forget, we're on the FCAT. We're also on Montague Community Television, here on GC TV, and we're also on Facebook as well. We do this each and every week for you right here. It's the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. For the Four Leaf Clover Restaurant, Denny's Pantry, Lisa Albert of Albert Hearing Services, 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield, and for Sean Hubert at Hubie's Tavern and Restaurant, Avenue Way in Turners Falls, we say thank you for tuning in to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. Remember, support your local athletes.
Thanks for watching the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report on GCTV. Catch a game and be sure to join us next time for more sports and fun.